Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Mysidia Post. My name is Alex Scott, and today we're going to be looking at a meta report. So we're going to be taking a look at different decks that are winning and decks that are just in general showing up a lot. I've looked at tournaments from all over the world, and I always select tournaments with 17 or more players. So without further ado, let's take a look at what's winning in this meta. So since the beginning of Opus 9, we've seen Mono Wind, Wind Water, and Mono Ice be the most successful decks, and also just the most common decks in the format. So far, we've seen 34 Mono Wind decks make the top cut in major tournaments. We've also seen 30 Water Wind decks and 25 Mono Ice. If we look down into 4th place, Icefire has seen a big rise since the last report we did, with another 10 appearances in Top Cut, but otherwise elements haven't been progressing very steadily. They're all about the same as they were before, or they're just not being played as much. So what this leads me to believe is that these big three and also Icefire are kind of the safer choices, and people are starting to just take those two events. So that's what we're seeing so far. In terms of decks that have actually won tournaments, Wind Water is in 1st place with 7 tournament wins, Mono Ice in 2nd with 5, and then we have Icefire and Mono Wind with 3 wins each, which is great. Mono Wind was highly present in top cuts but not actually winning any tournaments, and it's done a little bit better. We've also seen first time wins from Mono Water, Ice Earth Flan, and Ice Water, and Earth Wind has also gotten on the board with 2 wins. So with not too much changing since the last report, I thought we'd look at some of the interesting decks that we've seen so far that are not staples in the meta and that have been making a difference and actually making top cut. So the first one I want to look at is a rainbow deck that was played in the Japanese Fukuoka Ice Crystal Cup. Unfortunately, I don't read Japanese, so I don't know what the player's name or deck name is, so we're just going to call it the Rainbow deck. After we saw it in Japan, we then saw it played at the Game Cafe LQ in the United States, and it also made top cut twice in that tournament. So the players used a very similar list, except for a couple of changes. So I've put up the list on the screen now, and we can take a look at it to kind of see what is so interesting about it. So it runs a lot of colors, and it's able to do several different things with this list. So you might notice that all of the backups are pseudo high cost in that they all search, draw, they recur cards, and this enables multiple things. One, you're able to go through your deck very quickly to set up for backups and to color fix, because all of these cards are searching or drawing or getting you to go into your deck or your break zone. So you can access different color CP and you can access different cards. Secondly, you can play Fusoya, the 7 CP Lightning Legendary, and you have a ton of really high cost cards that are actually not as high cost because of the value they generate, but that's not what Fusoya is looking for, so you can do quite a bit of damage with him, and making them a very, very efficient piece of removal, but also another way of digging through your deck. The deck also runs 32 forwards, which allows the new Golbez to hit his ability more often, and when you're running this deck, you're going to cycle through a lot of your backups again by searching and by drawing, so that when you get to certain parts of the match, you're going to feel like Golbez is a pretty safe play because you know the ratios in your deck and you know that you're going to be able to flip a forward more often than not. The deck also has a bunch of ETBs that it can abuse with Legendary Rinoa, so it can flicker those cards, and that acts as the deck summons because it's not actually running any summons. The next deck that we're going to look at is a Blast from the Past, and it's all forwards, Strongest Sword, Gilgamesh. So that's something that we saw back in Opus 1, and we saw it with an all forwards Golbez deck as well, and this list was played in an LQ in Pittsburgh, California, and it's a mono lightning deck. So this deck was made with all forwards except for 3 Bahamut Zeros, which I understand are to close out the game. Otherwise, it's mono lightning, and it runs 3 of every single Gilgamesh in the entire game, which means there's 15 Gilgameshes in the game. So this allows you to use the Strongest Sword special over and over, and if you don't know Strongest Sword, you flip the top card of your deck. if it's a forward, you can break a forward. So by doing that, you're able to just remove everything in your way and to continue to swing through to win the game. The deck also has a ton of haste. It has a lot of ways to dull forwards, so it's clearly just a very aggressive deck and can get in and win games. And you're not seeing a deck like this really anywhere, so I can imagine that a ton of people were very surprised when they played against this deck, especially if they weren't around in Opus 1 or 2 to play against the all forwards strongest sword deck. Okay, and finally we're going to be looking at Christopher Matiski's Spice King Australia Fire CC winning deck. So he came first place at the Fire CC in Australia, so he's now a world's competitor. So congrats to you, Christopher. He's also the resident Rulings genius, and he's a very, very competent deck builder. So if you haven't checked out his channel, you should go check it out right now. He's got a great a video on how to build decks, and he also has a lot of ruling videos and all sorts of different types of videos. So he was able to make his way through this big tournament, and he did it by countering all of the wind he was expecting to see. So he's expecting to see mono wind and wind water and all sorts of ping through Chalinka, through Edge, through Fina, through Valfor, through all sorts of cards, maybe the Sky Pirates, Fran, etc. So he played a water ice deck that was very, very efficient. It used Strago, even though there was no realm in the deck, just so that it could play the lock and get the discard. It also used the snow backup, so it could dull forwards and bypass them and swing through, as well as 3 Emperor Gestals, the new dark forward that just breaks a forward on entry to remove blockers. It ran an off-color Chocobo to grant haste, which would be really good with lock, I imagine. And the spiciest card in the list was White Mage from Opus 3. It's 136 common from that set. It's a 1 CP forward, 3000 power. When White Mage or a party that it attacks with takes damage, reduce that damage by 3000. So this actually just reduces the damage White Mage takes all the time by 3000. So Fina only does 2000, Balfour does 0, Edge does 1000, etc. So it reduces damage. So now you have a 1 CP forward. You can't kill it with ping, and every time it attacks, it's dulling something with snow. If it party attacks, you can't kill those. And you also have this deck that's loaded with removal. So you have a ton of ways to bypass, you have a ton of ways to remove, and just like a very sticky deck. So he was able to cruise through the top 8, and it was just really cool to see this, this like totally out of the blue deck come out and just kind of smash his competition. We had seen Water Ice Vikings in the past. Obviously that was a competitive deck, but it was a deck that had fallen out of the meta. We haven't seen it in a while. It hasn't been that successful in this set, and just making some inclusions made a really big difference in knowing the meta, knowing what he was coming up against. So honestly, I was super impressed with that. You can go check out the videos of that for that tournament and watch those matches if you want later, and check out all the different plays that he had. Thanks for watching, everyone. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think that mono wind, mono ice, and wind water are too strong, or is there room in this meta for other decks? How about the interesting decks we saw today? Will any of them be the next meta contender, or did we just see an individual pilot's brilliance? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe to support us further, and you can read the Mysidia Post articles at themysidiapost.com. You can also check out our Patreon if you want to support us more. And if you need FFTCG singles, then look no further than Cards of Ivalice. They've got great deals and prices. Check them out. Finally, I'd like to thank FF Decks for creating the best website for creating your Final Fantasy trading card game decks. They've also got a Patreon, so make sure you go check them out. They work so hard for the community, so let's pay them back. See you next time.